Hello everyone, I'm Marion and welcome to Marion's World on quite a dark day. And I've got my stitch book, I've got a bundle of fabric, I've got my tangle of threads, and I'm about to do a beautiful slow stitching page for the next page of the stitch journal. So I hope you enjoy seeing what I do to my page, and if you're following along, I hope you get inspired to make your own slow stitching background for what's going to be some extra embroidery next time. I hope you enjoy seeing how I'm putting a slow stitching page together, and look forward to seeing how it's going to develop over the next week or two. I'm setting up for my next page, and I'll just move this to one side. As you can see, I've got a new double page spread to do. Thank you so much for all the comments I've had about this lovely crewel page. I've so enjoyed doing it, and it's been lovely to introduce crewel work to people, some of whom haven't seen it or heard of it before, and have really loved the colours going on and the different sort of ways of stitching. So I'm so pleased you enjoyed that, and I actually do have another project with crewel work. Probably won't be coming up until the new year, but I've already drawn a pattern and I already know exactly what I'm doing with it. So that'll be a pattern possibly coming in the new year. But anyway, on to this. I had two ideas for what I wanted to achieve with this page. Obviously some new stitches, that's important. So what decided me to do what I'm doing today is because I've gone from what I'd call the oldest type of embroidery or technique or stitching, however you want to call it, and I was thinking, well, what's the most modern to go from old to modern? And the only thing I could really think of was the slow stitch movement. It's not really an embroidery technique, it's more of a different way of thinking about embroidery and stitching, and I sort of get it all rolled up together. So I went back and had to look at some of K3N's videos because she's sort of the queen of slow stitch to me. And so I had a look at the way she put things together, and I have done that type of stuff before, and I mean that's sort of slow stitchy in a way, but I still had a picture in mind. There was an end in mind for it. And so I thought today I'd start off with a total slow stitch background in the ethos that K3N says about it, of just putting the stitches in and being sort of no end in sight really, other than covering your fabric with thread. And after that I'm going to show how you can use that in a more modern design again by embroidering over the top. But today it is just about making a slow stitch background, and I particularly want mine to be all in blue, and so I've gone and got all blue scraps from all over the place, from wherever I've got them. So I've got bits of old stitched on backs of quilt, pieces that people have sent me that they've dyed themselves, just old cotton, furnishing cottons, really worn out bits of ticking, printed, my husband's shirt, more of my husband's shirt that I've cut up for things. It's a good dark blue. That's the leftover from the bag I made last week. This is off a dress I made a couple of years ago. A nice bee on it. Bit of wool, probably being from a bottom of a coat maybe. You can see the idea. Oh, and that's fabric from a dress. I'm just going to start, and I'm going to get some inspiration of just what I want. I definitely want some of these small bits. I feel as if that with its hem, in fact I can't believe that, it's almost the right size. Sometimes you just get serendipity. Just move up a bit. So I'll just lie that there for now and see if I can get a nice cohesive sort of a design going on. I really like the denim. Or maybe that would fit down. It's a bit little to fit down there. I'd quite like the blues to go from dark to light, but if they end up not being like that, it won't matter to me. And so I'm just going to start layering things together as it pleases me. I like that. And just see what happens. Definitely nice to get. I think that's nice. I don't think that's going to tear though, so where's my scissors? Oh, my little embroidery scissors are actually in the sitting room because I've been knitting. And I have to say I haven't been knitting on my yarn cardigan. I've blooming well gone and started Stephen West's Go Go Dynamo Mystery Knit Along. Why did I do that? Well, actually, because it popped up on my feed, as they say, popped up on the videos, and I knew that I had suitable yarn, and I thought it would be a quick knit because the yellow cardigan's going on a bit. So there you go. I'm now starting the blooming. I've got the Dynamo shawl on. Okay, definitely want some of Michael's shirt in because it's a good dark blue. I have some ripped off here already. It's the same shirt. That's nice. I'll rip where I can, but I know some of these won't rip necessarily. Actually, I like that bit of red thread, but I don't think it's going to work for me with what I'm doing. I'll try and get something lighter in if I can. Not necessarily trying to make it sky or land, or I haven't got that in mind at all. I do like that. In fact, those holes could actually, instead of going over the top of something dark like that, maybe I like them on the white. I think maybe I do. I think maybe I might rip that down and keep that piece. This is the bag stuff. A selvage. That's even just an overlocked edge because it was a child's skirt, or a child's dress. Is this rip? Yep. Maybe it should go over the dark. Or half and half even. That's better. I think I'm discounting any of the ones that actually have colour on now. So blue, white. I think I'm okay with this one. But I don't think I want to introduce another colour. So unless I tear a little bit out of here, I won't be using that either. And I'm definitely not using that one. So blue and white it is going to be. Sometimes you end up with just too much to choose from, and so it's quite handy to get rid of some stuff maybe. Oh, that's lovely. I like that. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Oh, tore a little bit, look. I wasn't meaning to do that, but I think I'll count that as serendipity too. Maybe that's it. See what happens. I'm going to try and just use my tangle. So I'm going to just look for a cotton that's well, there's a pearl. What's that? That's actually a fine pearl cotton. There looks to be a few there though. Like I've used them for something, but I can't remember. That's actually variegated. That's actually got pink on it. I think I might use that. Okay, I'm going to just start stitching, I think. Just gonna get some old sewing cotton. And I'm using a longish needle, but it's got a really sharp point. And I am going to put a knot on the end. And I shall just come up under here and start to just do a little bit of a baste through. And I'm going to take quite big stitches underneath. It may be that these will come out, or it may not, I'm not sure yet. Probably they'll stay in. But I'm happy to do really long stitches underneath, which is why I'm using the big needle. As long as it goes down and it's easy for me to stitch through, that's the main thing. I know people call this, they call this the invisible baste now, but it's still be prick stitch to me because that's how my mum showed me, and she was a tailoress, or a tailor I suppose you would say now. She was trained as a furrier back in the 50s. Yeah, so although my mum was like sewed all the time, so like we used to go to bed at the sound of the sewing machine clickety clacketing away, and obviously my mum showed my sister and I how to sew and how to hem things and all of that type of thing. She wasn't an embroiderer at all. It was Grandma who did that. And Grandma who had the threads that I would sort out every time we went, and she would still have them in a mess afterwards, where I used to be winding them onto cardboards and all of that type of a thing. Yeah, she was the sewer and the knitter. So I learned sewing and crocheting from my mum, and knitting and embroidery from Grandma. Grandma's actual passion was wool tapestries, but she used to do those tapestries that you got pre-printed on a canvas, and then you filled in the colours. They were all the rage in the 60s and 70s, I think. I'm not sure whether people still do them now or not, but that's what Grandma used to do. So it was Grandma who was the instigator of the embroidery. And once that started, I don't think I've ever stopped. I wasn't intending to go around the outside, when here I find myself doing so. Which was surprised me there. I was going to go back and forth, but now I'm doing it, I'm going to just carry on. I will, obviously I want that edge. There we go, I've changed it already. Okay. I'll come back when it's all basted on. So I'm laid out, and I think I've got a very pleasing arrangement, or at least it is to me. I've got a single strand of just something that I've brought out of my tangle of, you know, my usable cottons, they're here. And I've just picked out the blue ones and the bluey purple ones, and I'm just going to start with some running stitch, and I think I want to start about here, just where it feels as if it needs to go. I'm using my same needle, and I'm just going to hold all my fabric. Now I've obviously got all the fabric of the stitch journal in my hand. So I was looking in preparation for doing this page. I thought I'll just read a bit more and see what I'm going to do, because I know I've done little bits of stuff before, but really more traditional embroidery is more what I do, and that's because I've done it since I was such a child. And a new thing comes along and you sort of, well, I didn't really know what it was all about, and obviously you learn more. And I've got that lovely book by Claire Wellesley Smith called Slow Stitch. I've had that for quite a long time, and I remember when I first started looking at that, I sort of could see what she was on about, but on the other hand I couldn't, because I kept thinking, well, I do feel like that when I'm doing my normal embroidery, and it was almost as if sort of the traditional embroidery was getting denigrated a bit as being not good enough. And I was a bit resistant to the whole thing, because that's just the way it made me feel a bit. And I'm sure if you're new to stitching or new to embroidery, you wouldn't probably feel that way. But it felt like, okay, I've been doing embroidery for 60 odd years, or 55 years, or whatever it was when I first got that book. And it felt like they were trying to say to me that it was no good. So I did have quite a bit of resistance to it at first, thinking it was just sort of, it's just a newfangled thing, isn't it? It was nothing to do with me. But, you know, you learn more and you learn as you go along as to what happens. And obviously I can see that whole process over the end result, which is fine. I do think that I get that too from what I do. So I still never know what to say about it, really. I love what Catherine does on her K3N channel. I absolutely love it. But I would not be without my embroidery hoop and my beautiful stitches and beautiful colours and stitching whatever it is. It doesn't matter to me what I stitch. I still get that process thing that I hear Catherine going on about. I feel I get that from doing what I do anyway. And so I don't know whether that makes sense to anybody that, you know, that's listening, whether you had that feeling too, or whether it was just me. Maybe it was just me being resistant to it all. I don't know. But anyway, I thought, although I did that landscape earlier in the year, I hadn't done any, what I would say is like this, where it's just the background of the beautiful stitching. And obviously when I did that landscape, it was to do a landscape. And so although it's using those techniques, it's not that actual ethos of what slow stitching's about, which is, I would say it's not a technique, it's more like, would you call it a movement? That's the sort of thing I would say. Anyway, I am going to slow stitch these beautiful pieces of fabric down, which already look so pretty to me. And I suppose it does give me a chance to talk about other stuff rather than telling you what I'm doing, because you know what I'm doing. I'm doing running stitch. Yeah, I think I'm just going to continue doing it like this for a while. So I do have a lovely, couple of lovely techniques coming when this background is done, because I did feel that there was scope for a sort of an old meets new or something like that with this, and that's what I'm hoping to show. I do know that when you do have heavy stitching like this on cloth, it does become beautiful, because That is how I feel about the kawandi. I absolutely loved making that kawandi, and also the dress skirt that I did afterwards. I loved it so much, and I feel that, where did I get a new thread? Just gonna go for whatever comes next. I feel that I would like to find out about Cantha in the same way as I found out about kawandi, because what you see is a lot of people saying that they're doing Cantha, but really all they mean is, well, this is just me, don't get angry at me, that they're doing running stitches and calling it Cantha. But I do have an old bag that is properly Cantha, and it's sort of got birds and elephants outlined with running stitch and all densely filled in. It's really lovely, and it's very old, and I feel that there's something to explore there in the same way as when I did the kawandi. I found out how the people did it traditionally, what they traditionally used, how they put the patterns traditionally, and so I've been wanting to do that for a little while, so I can see that maybe that'll come up. But I'm not sure what I'll make, but I'll try my best to be as authentic as I can with it. I'm not even fastening my thread ends off. In fact, I might just leave them. See what I feel. It might look too messy, or it might be part of the process. I feel I'm narrowing my lines now. They sort of fall into a style, I think. So it's interesting how the ethos of slow stitch and sort of reusing your textiles and all of that sort of a thing has become really popular, and I think I'm coming from a place where that wasn't a choice. You were doing and mending because you couldn't afford to do anything other. And if you were darning your socks or you were patching a hole, it's because that's the only way you had of, you know, making something good enough to use. And it's sort of, I'm not saying shameful exactly, but people weren't really thinking about it in the terms of it being an art. And I think just because I've done it for so long, it's hard to sometimes get out of that mindset that you're not allowed to sort of think of it as beautiful because it's utilitarian. But in the end, I've done this for years without calling it anything other than mending your clothes. And it's lovely that it's being celebrated. And actually, I've just noticed I've caught the tail of that by accident in my next row of stitching. I think I'm just going to leave that there. I do like the rhythmic putting in of the stitches. But it's still embroidery to me. It's just slow stitching, but it's embroidery. It's still using a needle and thread to stitch on cloth. I'll have to see if K3N has something to say about it. So what I was hoping for this page is that we explore the slow stitch and I would definitely urge you, if you haven't already, and I know Catherine and I have a lot of the same people, so I would say if you haven't been to Catherine's YouTube channel already, that's K3N, you need to go and see how she does her slow stitch, because it's so beautiful. She's a master at it. And all the hand-dyed linens as well, which I don't really do. What I was hoping to do with this page, for one thing, it was because it was the most modern sort of I can't call it a technique exactly, modern style of embroidery that I could think was out there, and it seemed a nice juxtaposition with the crewel work, which is the oldest style of embroidery that I know about, and obviously that's still going. And so it seemed nice to me to put those two pages one after the other. And then what I wanted to do for a long time, I haven't done it, was explore just using a slow stitched background and putting some really just sort of embroidery on top of it, but not in that landscape sort of a way that I did before, in a different way entirely. So next week when I start the surface embroidery, expect to see some new stitches, because I've got a good vision of what that should be. Well, that's done that lovely piece there. I'm really happy with that. So yes, and the embroidery will, as far as I know at the moment, will be all white. So if you haven't got white threads, then have a look around for some. I think most people have white threads anyway. So I'll probably be using pearl cotton as well as stranded cotton, I would think. And some nice, bit more involved stitches, but it'll be nice, and I think this lovely background will quietly show them off beautifully. What I like with the slow stitching, this sort of a thing that I'm doing today, is how all of a sudden everything the fabrics become more than they were before. So just by the act of sewing them together, that's what I loved about the Kawandi. Just the act of sewing the stitch through all the layers, regardless of what they were. That made the whole thing into more than the components, as it were. And I really like that. Because if you haven't done one, they're just so beautiful to feel and to stitch on. They're just the most amazing things. And of course they were born out of necessity, about not having new fabrics and using up old things, and all of that. I think every culture has their way of doing that. While I'm just stitching running stitch, I can say other things. So I really enjoy receiving all your comments. They make me smile. The other week, when I wasn't feeling overly wonderful, somebody sent a message and it made me laugh out loud, and it was just what I needed at the time. So thank you everyone for taking the time to comment and send messages. Just getting some new thread. My battery ran out, or I just carried on stitching, so I've done a little bit, but I'm searching for thread at the minute. And actually, yeah, I've got some silver here, which I think I might want to use, so I'm going to pull that out. Just little bits maybe. and this nice blue here, so I can carry on a little bit further. So what I've done after the battery ran out, just get my needle and thread. I've carried on and I've done this bit down here, and I put sort of a cross on there with the grey thread. I actually feel that I might want a denser amount of stitching on than I at first thought, and the reason I've come to that conclusion is not only do I think my stitching lines are quite far apart, but I really like it when they're closer together. That's more the point. It's not that they are far apart, it's just the fact that I really like them when they're close. So I'll just keep on doing this, but I think I'll over sew the whole out. So here where I've got them quite wide, I think I'm likely to be going in with an extra line of thread, and I'll show you the piece in the book that I was really enjoying reading about and looking at as a photo, because it really is beautiful. It was only on a single cloth though, it wasn't a pieced cloth. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Little purple rectangle. That's cute. Okay, I'm going to put the silver in. So I can't remember putting that in here, but there's 2 strands here, and there's a few different strands, so I'll just put this 2 strand in, and I'm going to just turn round so I can do these lovely holes. So let me think. I think I would like to blanket stitch around them, maybe quite tightly, not too loose, not necessarily to pull them though. Oh, that's looking pretty good. I like that. So if you've got some metallic threads, this is a nice use for them. I don't really use mine very much. Well, only doing gold work, I suppose, but I haven't done that for a little while. So I'm just holding my thumb on the loop end of the thread so that it gives me a chance to put my needle up in the right place. They're not easy to stitch with sometimes, these metallic threads, so I tend to be better off with a short length than a big long length. Just going to crumple my piece up in my hand and carry on round. It's giving it a really nice shine. I'll take this under and over around so I'm not wasting the thread, because it's a lovely silver. I'll just try and use it up by weaving under and over around the blanket stitch legs. I'm just seeing if I can use it up like that. Oh, there's one of my threads come out. Well, I'll just leave that. I think that looks nice. More silver. A little bit. It's just so lovely going around here. It's a bit tricky, the silver thread, but it's worth it because it looks gorgeous. Well, I'm going to do a bit more on this bit, and then I've still got this corner to do and this to tie down. I think I'm going to do a bit off camera. I definitely want to get more of this done. So at the minute, and I think I am going to leave all these tails, and the reason I think it's okay, I wanted to leave them, but I've been looking back in the book, and of course I know a lot of you probably know this book already, and all these thread tails on here, I think that's really gorgeous. It's why I got the book in the first place. As soon as I saw it, I just thought that's so lovely, and I've marked a couple of pages here. So that's the first one, which I just think's absolutely, oh, get the shine off. I think that's absolutely gorgeous. I love the greens and the browns, and she says it's wool gauze and silk and thread dyed at different times of year. And it's absolutely stunning to me, that. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the other bit is this bit here, which there's the bit off the front. But there's dense stitching here and all the threads, I think it's really lovely. So I'm encouraged that my idea of thinking I would leave the threads, I think is fine, and so that's what I'm going to do. Wherever my threads come up, they're just going to get left, and they're going to be incorporated into the rest of what's going to be here. I'm going to do a little bit more stitching and see how I'm doing for video time. And if I can show some more, I will show some more. I've actually done quite a bit more stitching, but and I still haven't finished, I don't think. So I've done about another hour and a half of stitching on here, and I've done around here. I've left this little rectangle unstitched, and it's nicely sort of puffy and creasy. And I've started adding more lines in because I felt as if I wanted more heavily covered in stitching, and it does feel lovely, and I've been really enjoying it. And I'm really liking the thread ends on top. That is a definite for me. So I know that might not be something that you feel that you want to do, but if you do, then I think it's just up to you to go with what you feel like doing at the time. And so I particularly wanted the darker blue, and I'm going to be stitching on top of this in white. But whatever colours that speak to you, and whatever you want to cover your page in, is going to be perfectly fine. And you don't have to be stitching in white either. It's just I'm just trying to say to you what I'm hoping to do with mine, and then you choose what you want to do if you're following along. So I actually think there's more for me to do on here, so I'm calling it a day for today, and I'll show you how much more stitching I did at the beginning of next week, so you'll see how much I ended up doing. I haven't even started up in this corner yet, this here, but what I have done is started to, this lovely dyed pattern on here, I started to overstitch that with blanket stitch together, and I feel as if I'm going to do that with the whole of that pattern and maybe leave this edge free. So I definitely feel I'm going to do that. I haven't even touched this piece yet, and I can't find any more silver thread. Oh, I've just found one. Hooray! I couldn't find another silver thread in my tangle, but I've just, that second, the light's just caught it. So I'll put some more silver on here. So just to finish, I have really enjoyed stitching on this. The whole fabric of it feels so lovely in your hand, and I've ended up doing a lot more stitching than I expected to do. I just thought I'd be stitching the things together, and once they were together I'd stop, but no, I'm carrying onwards, and although I've spent quite a while on it already, I feel there's quite a lot more for me to do. So I'll be stitching on these bits here, and I definitely feel as if I'll be adding some to there too. But the feel of it is so lovely, and it just brings me to the mind of how I stitched on the Kawandi. That was a similarly beautiful process of just putting fabric and thread together and making it into something more than the individual pieces, and it's just a lovely thing to do. So I hope you have some lovely cloth that you can use for your own slow stitch background page, and I'll show you how much more I did at the beginning of next week's episode of the Stitch Journal, because I definitely feel that there's quite a bit more that I'd like to do. And I'm very pleased that I found that bit of silver, because I was determined to only use thread out of my tangle, and I just couldn't find any more. And then I've got all the lights on today again. It is so dark and dismal here. It's cold, the sky's grey, it's raining, I've got the main light on, I've got my embroidery ring light on, and I still feel I'm sitting in the dark. But anyway, the light caught the silver, and that's how I saw that last piece of silver thread. So I'm pleased about that. And so thank you for watching, and hopefully if you're joining in, you're going to really enjoy doing this slow stitching page for the Stitch Journal. All that's left to say is please press me the like button. If you haven't been here before and you've enjoyed that and you want to see more, press the subscribe button and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and all the comments and all the support I get from you. It means a lot, and it's been wonderful over these past few weeks to get the supportive messages from you. So thank you very much for that, and I'll see you next time you visit me. I always say that, and really it's you see me the next time you visit me. So you'll see me the next time you decide to drop in on Marion's World. Thanks a lot everyone, and bye bye. Happy stitching, happy crafting to you all.